Hey guys, Sindan right here. This is going to be my chapter review to My Hero Academia 175 or Boku no Hero Academia 175, Morning of the Big Day. Now, I had mixed feelings about this chapter, but as a whole I thought it was pretty good, especially the ending. I really liked the ending, and I'll get to that. But the initial part of the chapter, I think the first 5 pages were a waste. The first 5.5 pages in actuality were a waste. And I've mentioned it before and I'll say it again. We've seen the camaraderie between the students of Class 1A before, and these interaction scenes aren't deepening the bonds that they have or their bonds any further than what we've seen in the previous 7 to 8 chapters or since the manga has begun, really. This isn't cementing their relationship any further. I mean, you need situations in which I mean the first few chapters of this whole festival thing, that was okay. They were deepening their relationships. I still didn't like it because I didn't think it needed to be outright stated. We can see just through them coming back from their placements and from their apprenticeships, essentially, out to these agencies, and when they came back and they're discussing it, we can kind of see how they've become better outside and then come back and share themselves with one another, and that deepened their relationships in and of itself. So it seems like we've been force-fed this kind of interaction between them, and really this is like the 7th, 8th chapter in a row almost, where we've just had interaction between Class 1A, and I'm like, I get it. We know that they have excellent relationships with one another. It's cool. I don't mind. It's just, why you gotta keep feeding us this, man? Sounds like, whatever, it's just more of the same thing, which is annoying. I hate seeing the same thing over and over and over, and it's just, come on, man. So there was a key scene though in this whole interaction between Class 1A, which was the rope, which Deku noticed was frayed, and which would eventually cause Deku to go and run in with Gentle at the end of the chapter. So that was the key scene, and he's with Aoyama when that happened. So I was like, alright, cool. We then went to Deku training with All Might on the morning of the big day. This time though, Hatsume pops up again, and she pops up with Deku's new gloves that she's engineered. And I really enjoy every time Hatsume's popped up with new inventions and new ideas, and just her creativity for helping out Deku at the moment, but possibly in the future with other heroes as well. And like I say, I hope she becomes kind of like this mainstay engineer for a group of heroes, or possibly for the majority of heroes in the future. Maybe she'll be providing for more than just Deku, which would be something that I think would be really it would progress her character, but it would also be really good for the story as well. So Hatsume, she's doing good stuff. But then we come back to the issue of the gloves themselves, and what can we really deduce from their design? They kind of have these raised knuckles, and even on the thumb as well. And then they have this kind of like, it almost looks like a Velcro clasp almost around his wrist, just to tighten around his wrist. So what can we deduce from that? Pretty much nothing. I can't tell you anything from just the design of the gloves in and of themselves. It depends on how much Hatsume knows of Deku's abilities, but I think she's aware of the insane recoil, essentially, his power has, and his power provides. I mean, she was there with him during the sports festival, I think it was, and I think she saw the damage, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure, I can't remember really right now, but I'm pretty sure that she saw the damage that occurred to Deku once he utilized his power. So maybe since then she's been thinking, how can I prevent that recoil that he has? Because he can produce an insane amount of power, but you can't take that power, because opposite and equal, you produce a force, you get the equal reactive force, essentially. And he can't hack that, so maybe I should utilize something that can absorb that force, which is what I think it is. So due to all of that, I have a feeling that the gloves will work much like Bakugo's gauntlets. He causes explosions, and then some of the energy is stored in his gauntlets, allowing him to utilize that in kind of like a heat wave kind of thing. And Deku's gloves, I think, will store the recoil of his attacks and then allow him to release it as like a kinetic shock wave of some sort. Or it could just store the recoil and allow him convert it to another energy form, maybe heat, light, ice, I don't know, whatever. And just he could probably produce some sort of heat wave, a lot like Bakugo. So maybe something like Bakugo, or something Black Panther like with his vibranium suit. I still think it's got to be something along those lines, but who knows? Horikoshi might have thought of something completely new and something really creative. So I'm really keen to see exactly what Deku's new gloves are going to do, or what they're capable of. Also, I wonder what Deku's new thing is that he wanted to try out. He gets the gloves and he's like, oh, now I can try out this new thing. So it could just be some super air pressure punch or something, but it could be something that we've never seen before, and something that Deku in his crazy mind has come up with and he's been wanting to try. And maybe it's part of the specification of the gloves that he provided Hatsume with, in terms of, I need it to be able to do this because I've got something like this in mind. So really, if we knew what he wanted to do, we'd be able to guess a little bit at what the gloves are able to do, but we know neither of those things, so it's just speculation at the moment. And then we go from really the transition between page 9 and page 10 was really weird. This chapter, there were a couple weird panels. Once Deku leaves training to go and buy the rope, he's running past some stalls, only for the panel to kind of zoom out on page 10 and show more stalls, but Deku is in essentially the same position. It's a really weird transition, and I thought, I was looking at every character on the page like, oh shit, maybe like just out of nowhere, friggin' hand guy is gonna pop up. Shigaraki. I thought Shigaraki would just pop up and be like, oh hey, and I'd be like, yo shit, that would have been crazy. I don't know how it would have happened, but it would have been crazy. But there was nothing really out of the ordinary in that larger panel that suggested that something was wrong. So I don't know, that was just a really weird panel, and I think maybe you guys noticed it as well. Then we come to the best part of the chapter for me. It was the really solid part of the chapter, and I really liked how Gentle and Deku kind of clocked who each other were. But even this part did have its faults, with the convenience of Deku just running into, out of everyone in the world at that specific time, he just runs into the antagonists as he's purchasing some rope, which on the day, actually no, the night before, he found out that he needed to get. So that was really convenient, and just like, oh okay, whatever. But let's just brush that aside and focus on the interaction, because, you know, there will be some convenient aspects in every story. I mean, like, I just finished watching Game of Thrones, and the whole, they march to High Garden and then they march back to King's Landing from Castle Rock. That was convenient as fuck as well. And speaking of, actually, I'll talk about Game of Thrones in possibly another video. That's another thing for another time. But there will always be convenience, no matter how good the story is. So yeah, let's just brush that aside. And we get to the part which I really liked, which is how Gentle and Deku both clocked each other's identities, both realized who each other were in completely different ways, all stemming from the Gold Tips Imperial Tea, which is what I think it was called. Now, I knew it would be important, the tea, but I didn't realize this was why it would be important. So this is why it is important. I thought it'd be something like Gentle would invade, and then he'd see that these kids were like tea lovers or something, and he'd befriend Yao Yorozu or something like that. But it didn't turn out to be like that. So this is why. So Gentle's thought process in identifying Deku was unique to how Deku identified. Was unique compared to how Deku identified Gentle as well. So they identified each other in different ways, all stemming from the tea. So Gentle realized, his thought process was this: a kid knows about rare tea. Alright, he says his friend made him some of it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. He assumes this friend that made Deku this tea is high class because of the rarity of the tea. I was like, alright, so then he realizes the high class friend must be in high class education. The highest class education around these parts, that specific area where he's in right now, is UA. This kid is from UA, and he's just like, oh shit, I'm interacting with a potential hero here. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed how Gentle really pieced those together, and he was like, oh shit, I'm with a hero here. And then Deku's thought process was even more impressive, and we've already seen his analytical side for centuries now. But Deku's thought process was a little bit elongated, but it was essentially the same. So he realizes that this guy had some extremely high quality tea, and his voice sounds strangely familiar. He links this voice to the YouTube criminal, but he's not too sure. Then he remembers the quality of Gold Tips Imperial and Gentle's tendency to drink a higher quality tea depending on the difficulty of his mission, and he remembers Gentle's last video about a wake up call to society, and he remembers that. So if he's drunk such a high quality tea, chances are he's on an extremely difficult mission, and he realizes within the area that Gentle's in right now, he must be here to do something to UA. He's here to do something to UA. So I was like, that was an awesome series of assumptions and just recognition between the two characters, in terms of being aware of their surroundings, being aware of each other's, being aware of voices and things like that, and being aware of like the social society at large in terms of who can get their hands on Gold Tips Imperial and things like that. So I really enjoyed that part. Deku then pleads that Gentle leave Yue alone with the thoughts of his friends from Yue on his mind, and the real situation here is, what will Gentle do? Surely he's got to carry on with his mission, but then that brings up the whole thing of, will Deku really lose here? He knows the situation that Yue is in, and if a villain breaks in now and sets off the alarm, Principal Nezu's in some deep shit, and he's up shit creek without a paddle. More than that, the festival would be suspended, which would really destroy all the hard work that Class 1A and everyone else has put in. I mean, like you see in his mini flashback, he's thinking of Nejire and all these guys, everyone who's like in their final year, and he's thinking of Eri, who wants to come and see what's up at UA. So it's a lose situation for Deku and everyone at UA. So he really needs the pressure's on him right now. But more than that, this is a fight that Deku has to win, especially as he's just received his new gloves. But we also know that Gentle possesses a strange quirk, something which has allowed him to take on multiple heroes in the past. So this is exciting. I'm really, really hyped for this. It's something that we shouldn't like. It's Gentle. We know we don't really think he's evil, but it's something exciting, and I'm really keen to see where this is going to go. So let me know what you guys thought of the chapter. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Genuinely let me know what you thought of the chapter, and I'll see you guys in my next review of whatever comes out. So I'll see you guys then.